Next important rule, or we can say that error that is usually committed by most of the learners is of capitalization. In English, we capitalize I as a subject, and everywhere it is used. Do keep this thing in mind whenever you are going to write I, right? As a subject or anywhere or everywhere, you will see that you have to capitalize it. First letter of a sentence, proper names. So these are the things that we usually capitalize. First letter of a sentence, proper names, national nouns and adjectives, days of the week and months. All these are actually whenever we write them in the form of capitalization. This is the next important error we have to focus. Then the sentences that end at a preposition, ending sentences with preposition, it has also become too common to use preposition inappropriately, or to end phrases and questions with preposition. Examples of some prepositions are at, of, with, and in. So the wrong structure here is, where is the movie theater at? So the correct structure is, where is the movie theater? When asking about the location of place, at should not be used after where. So you cannot use simultaneously where and at. Where never uses the preposition at with it, right? So when asking about location of place, at should not be used after where. For those who do not know, prepositions are any words that a squirrel can run with a tree. The squirrel round around by, through, up, down, around, etc. the tree, right? So this is the structure. So this was something about, again, the preposition, and we cannot use, to keep this in mind, a preposition at the end of a sentence. This is the wrong structure, right? Then next, if we talk about, is different than and different from. If we talk about this, then so different than and different from, words like rather and faster are adjectives, as we know, because they have are at their end, right? And are used to show comparison with the with the preposition than, greater than, less than, faster than, rather than. So the adjective different is used to draw distinction. So when different is followed by a preposition, it should be used with from, similar to, separate from, distinct from, or away from. So my living situation in New York was different from home. From, right? Then you have to focus on the distinction plus the comparison, right? Development is different in New York than in Los Angeles. So you have to focus on these two terms, that is different from and different than. Whenever you are making the distinction, or you are trying to draw the distinction, you'll use that different from, right? Different will take a preposition with it, that is from, right? And when you are going to compare something, then you will use different than of the verb to go. But do keep this thing in mind, that correct uses, I should have gone somewhere. We cannot use I should have went somewhere. So this is actually, there is the involvement of tense. So all you have to do is that you have to focus on the aspect, right? That in which aspect you have to utilize gone and went. Went, as you know, we um, use for past, and past continuous, and something like that. uh, Past, actually, past participle plus, we can say that past simple, they usually take these two aspects, right? Next, yes, next, if we talk about, is the use of who and whom. This is actually really confusing, or we can say that this is the basic error that is committed by the learners. When considering whether to use who or whom, you have to rearrange the sentence in your head. Right? So general rule over here with you. So you have to focus a bit, right? Subject starts sentences or clauses, and objects end them. It happens whenever we are going to start a sentence, we usually have it with subject. We usually end a sentence with an object, right? Who is subjunctive or with subjective or nominative pronoun, right? Along with he, she, it, we, and they. It is used when the pronoun acts as a subject of a clause. So you'll see that who is a word that we use in subjective or nominative pronoun, right? So whenever we use he, she, it, we, they, instead of these we can use who, right? For them we can use who, while whom is an objective pronoun. Do keep this thing in mind. Along with him, her, it, us, and them. So these are the cases that I have told you. So all those pronouns, those are in nominative case or subjective case, they can use who, or while other we can say that other pronouns, and the pronouns those are actually called as objective pronouns, and those are in genitive case, they can use actually whom with it. It's used when the pronouns acts as the object of a clause. Using who or whom depends on whether you are referring to the subject or object of a sentence. So this whole actually game is of subject and object. So over here you'll see that who loves you. So why we have utilized who? Because it is in the position of subject. Then you are loved by whom? Why we utilize whom? Because whom is at the position of object. So that's the basic difference between who and whom. Next is the term that is of homophones, homonyms, and homographs, right? We have discussed this earlier as well. So mostly confusions are caused by homonyms like except, tire, see, right, here, etc. So these are the words. These are actually highly confusing sort of words in English language. Homonyms, as you know, that the words having same names, and we can say that having same sounds, and you'll see that. So these are highly confusing words. We have made a discussion. Fewer or less, where to use fewer versus less, and where to use less. So use fewer when discussing countable objects, whenever you are discussing the things that you can count. So for example, he ate fewer chocolates than other guy, or fewer employees attended the meeting. Use less for intangible concepts, the concepts that you are unable to touch, right? Like time. For example, I spent less than 1 hour finishing this report. So that's the basic difference between fewer and less. In short, fewer we use for countable objects, and less we use for the concept that are highly intangible. Next we have to talk about is lie and lay, right? So this is the most confusing element, that where to use. Okay, there are two words, lie and lay. There is the present form and the past form. That is written over here is the present form, and lay is the past form. While lay is present form and laid is past form. Lay is a transitive verb. It requires a direct subject and one more object. Someone lays something somewhere. Its present tense is lay. I lay the pencil on the table. Its past tense is laid. Yesterday I laid the pencil.
Easily. Man lay waiting for an ambivalence. The most common mistakes occurs when the writer uses the past tense of the transitive lay. Example, I laid on the bed. And when he or she actually means the intransitive past tense of lie, that is, I lay on the bed. So these are actually the mistakes that are usually committed by the learners. Next important thing we have to talk about is whether and if. So what we have to use, whether if or whether, right? Many people seem to assume that whether is interchangeable with if, right? They have this concept that both are the same. Whether expresses a condition where where there are two or more alternatives, while if we use when expresses a condition where there are no alternatives. Examples: I don't know whether I'll go out tonight. I can go out tonight if I have any money.
When you have alternative with you, one or more alternative, you can use whether. When you have no alternative with you, then you can use if. For example, I don't know whether I'll go out tonight. I have this option to go or not to go, right? But in over here in this sentence, you say that I can go out tonight if I have money. So over here, a sort of condition is utilized. Usually, you'll see that if start conditions. Next important rule we have to talk about is may and might. Okay, may implies a possibility, while might implies for more uncertainty. When you are uncertain about something, then you use might, and when there is possibility of something, you use may. You may get a headache if you stay out in cold. You might get a headache if you don't cover yourself. Someone who says I may have more cookies could means he does not want more cookies right now, or that she right and that he or she might not want any at all. The next important rule we have to talk about is lose versus lose. So this is the thing that most of the learners usually treat as an error, right? Lose, a verb that to be without something, the loss of something, right? Lose. I do not wish to lose more weight. And there is another word that is loose, an adjective, free or released from attachment, not bound together, not strict. So my belt is very loose around my waist. So you will see that there is a bit difference between the two. Loose as well. Easy reminder, loose has come to be without its extra o. So this is the interesting fact over here that we were talking about. Then me versus I. Okay, this is the basic rule to remember, that I is a subject and me is a object. Use the pronoun I along with other subjective pronouns, right? Such as we, he, she, you, and they, when the pronoun is the subject of a verb. Claire and I are going for coffee. Use the pronoun me along with the objective pronouns such as you, us, him, her, you, and them, when the pronoun is the object of a verb. The dog followed John and me to the door. So the whole case of subject and object. If you are utilizing it in subject, you can use I, and when you are talking about yourself in object, then you can use me. Then next important thing we have to talk about is effect and effect. Again, these are the nouns that we have earlier talked. So this is one is noun and second is verb. So we are generally going to talk about this. This is the very basic one. So whose versus whose. One is with apostrophe and one is with possessive already. So whose is possessive form of who. Do keep this thing in mind. Whose plans are these? And who's a contraction of who is. Who's going to clean all this mess. Easy reminder, you can replace who's with who is every time and see if it makes sense. So one is possessive form and second is contracted form, right? So all you have to keep in mind the difference. So that was all about different errors that are committed by Pakistani learners. Thanks for listening. Thank you so much.